Hi there. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge weekly meeting here at noon. I'm Haggai Davis, your club president, welcoming you once again to our hybrid meeting as it is. And we're very excited. We're going to have a great meeting today. We have LSU, the interim president, Tom Galligan, is going to be our speaker. As you all are aware, this is a very special day in American history. This is the day that we have the peaceful transfer of power. By now, we should have President Biden should have been sworn in by now, I hope. And that's a great thing that the American government continues on the way it does. So with all of that, we'll go along with our meeting, and we'll start off with their invocation by Helen Graff.
Please bow your heads. O God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to each listen politely as others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than individuals trying to promote their own agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together on our shared mission. Amen.
And next we'll have David Koch with the pledge.
Would you please join me as we recite our pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Renee Chatelaine with our four-way test.
Please join me in reciting the four-way test. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay, and so we really don't have any big announcements this week. We do want to remind everybody, mask up, stay safe, and be careful out there. So we'll go on with our meeting, and next up we'll have past President Darryl Papillon introduce our speaker. Hi, Darryl.
Thank you, President Haggai. It's really my great privilege and honor to introduce today's speaker. I've had the honor to know him for 30 years this fall. I met him 30 years ago when I was a lowly freshman at the LSU Law School, and he was in a sea of Paris Island type professors. The mindset of the law school back then was look to your left, look to your right. One of them won't be there in 3 years. Professor Galligan was a professor then who we all looked to so warmly because he was such a warm person who cared about us, really deeply cared about our educations and cared about us as people. We should have known then that he was destined for such great things. We were saddened, many of us as young lawyers, when he left us to become the dean of the law school at the University of Tennessee. And from there, he went on to become the president of Colby Sawyer College in the Northeast, where he served with distinction and sort of reinvigorated that school. But even though he was away, he was never away, because he spoke at seminars to lawyers and judges here in Louisiana throughout that time, because he is, of course, a nationally acclaimed legal scholar. And it was to our great delight that just a few years ago, he came home to LSU as the dean of the law school, and he held dual chairs, the Dodson and Hooks Endowed Chair in Maritime Law and the James Huntington and Patricia Klein-Peter Odom Professorship of Law. Of course, Hunt Odom was a member of this club. He has had a fine record. His work has been cited by courts. He's testified in front of Congress and has just been a wonderful scholar. But he is a wonderful person, and I could talk forever about the awards that he's won, but his impressive education should be highlighted before I talk about a couple of things. He, of course, graduated from Stanford University. He graduated first in his class from the university, from Seattle University School of Law, and he holds an LLM from Columbia. As everyone knows, unless you've been under a rock, on New Year's Day in 2020, he became the interim president of LSU. And In less than 2 weeks, he had us ranked number one in the whole world. We won a national championship in football. Tom Galligan is really a great academician, a great leader for LSU in an important time. And Tom, of course, resides here in Baton Rouge with his wife, Susan. He is the father of some very impressive children. I give you LSU Interim President Thomas Galligan.
Well, thank you very much. And hello, Rotarians. I want to thank the Baton Rouge Rotary Club for letting me be your speaker today. I'm honored. I want to thank Daryl for his very kind introduction and his many contributions to our community, to our Baton Rouge Bar Association, our State Bar Association, to LSU, and particularly to the Paul M. Hebert Law Center. I'll tell you a little story about Daryl. He mentions that I was his torts professor, and he mentioned that I went to Tennessee. And while I was at Tennessee, we were having a barbecue out on the front porch of the law school before a September 29th, 2001 football game against LSU. I had on an orange shirt, but friends, underneath my t-shirt said LSU. And as we were barbecuing, this guy walks by on the street, and I looked up and I said, I know him. And he goes, hey, Professor Galligan, do you know who I am? And I said, of course I know who you are. You're Daryl Papillon. So Daryl, it's always good to see you, and remember that. Tennessee actually won that game, friends, but let me tell you what happened later in the season. Later in the season, they met in the SEC championship, and we beat them badly, and that's the game that Matt Mock came in when Rohan Davey was hurt and led us to a victory. So enough of that. The last time I talked to you all was when my friend and mentor, Cheney Joseph, was completing his term as your president, and you very gently roasted him. I was lucky enough to be one of the cooks that afternoon, and it's a really wonderful memory, and I'm glad to be back with you. When we scheduled this a few weeks ago, it did not occur to me, but probably should have, that I would be competing with the presidential inauguration for your attention. So I'm very humbled that you have chosen to spend part of your day with me. Today, I'm going to talk about the rock and how we're embracing it this year at LSU. But I don't want you to be confused. I'm not talking about geology. I'm not talking about a prison in the former prison in the San Francisco Bay. I'm not talking about a professional wrestler and actor. And I'm not talking about a style of music to which I am partial. When I say that we're embracing the rock at LSU, I'm talking about our unwavering resolve and enthusiasm to work to reach our goals and push our university to even greater heights. As I was preparing for 2021 over the holiday break and really looking forward to 2021, I was thinking about all the important and hard work ahead of us, and the image of Sisyphus kept popping into my mind. You know, Sisyphus, Greek mythology. The short version of the story is that Sisyphus got the gods really angry, and Zeus was so angry that he condemned Sisyphus to roll a massive rock up a long, steep hill for all eternity in the underworld. Now, if you know Greek mythology, you know that the gods were particularly creative when it came to punishment, especially Zeus. Zeus is the same guy who punished Prometheus by chaining him to a rock on the side of a mountain where an eagle ate his liver every night just for giving us humans fire. To me, it's a toss-up as to whether it was worse for Sisyphus or worse for Prometheus. But the Greeks largely considered Sisyphus's punishment the cruelest of all. After all, what could be worse than having to spend your days toiling away at incredibly hard work for which there was no objective purpose or reward, only to have to do it all over again the next day? But in 1942, during World War II, the philosopher Albert Camus published The Myth of Sisyphus. Camus concluded that one must imagine Sisyphus as happy. Now, I'm not going to get into it entirely, but Camus came to the conclusion after stating that the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. So it struck me when I first read Camus' take on Sisyphus. If we choose to embrace our rock, as Camus suspects Sisyphus did, then every day that we put our strength behind it and keep pushing it will be its own reward, and we'll make progress, though sometimes difficult to measure. The fortunate thing for us at LSU is that unlike Sisyphus, we're not condemned to push that rock in vain. Our purpose is clear, our goals are attainable, and we can fulfill our potential if we embrace that rock and just keep pushing it up the hill. So what are our goals this year at LSU? Simply put, excellence in all things, from the mundane to the truly aspirational. First and foremost has been the long trek toward returning to in-person classes. The health and safety of our campus community remains our top priority as we continue to reach and learn and fulfill our three-pronged mission of research, education, and outreach. And we're still doing it during a pandemic. The vaccine has shown all of us a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're just not there yet. To get there, we at LSU are working in coordination with the Louisiana Department of Health and others to provide the entire LSU community with vaccinations as soon as they become available. Now, as we anxiously await that vaccine, we're also enhancing our current testing, expanding wastewater testing, and implementing sentinel testing. Well, what's sentinel testing? It's testing whereby 5% of our student population will be randomly selected for a mandatory test every 2 weeks. Now, since March, we have learned a whole lot about operating during a pandemic, and we're applying everything that we've learned to our COVID strategy this spring. But what we can't afford to see is our campus community becoming complacent about doing all the little things that have big impact on keeping the virus at bay. The same is true for our community. The alarming spike in new cases, hospitalizations, and sadly deaths in recent weeks, along with the emergence of new strains of the virus, are a reminder of how crucial it is for all of us to keep wearing our masks, washing our hands, remaining as physically distant as possible, limiting outdoor gatherings, staying home if we're feeling sick, and properly isolating if we test positive. And that's a message that we are reiterating to our students, our faculty, and our staff. Now, as we're pushing that COVID rock up the hill, we are not going to allow it to slow down the progress we're making on our longer-term goals. There are other parts of that rock to push. Now, while most of the news cycle has been about COVID, LSU has actually broken some incredible academic records this year. We welcomed our third record-breaking class in terms of size and diversity, and we welcomed the class with the highest average GPA, high school GPA, in our history. Even more importantly, we saw record high graduation and retention rates. Think about that for just a minute. During a pandemic, an unprecedented pandemic that has turned our lives upside down, LSU has not only attracted more talented students to our university and to our state, but we've also kept them from year to year and seen more of them graduate than ever before. That is no small feat. Our faculty and staff pat them on the back, and our students. That is no small feat. Other universities in the country are seeing exactly the opposite, especially in the face of COVID. Now, our students continue to excel academically. For example, Brianna Robertson from Slidell and Henry Cantrell from right here in Baton Rouge were awarded 2020 astronaut scholarships, recognizing the best and brightest minds in STEM who show initiative, creativity, and excellence in their chosen field. Good job. Now, these aren't just bragging points. They're good for business, too. More students in the region, along with more students graduating with degrees, translates into a stronger, more sustainable economy locally and statewide. And that will be even more important to us post-COVID as we work toward national and state recovery. Now, economic impact. Remember, please, LSU contributes $5.1 billion to our state's economy annually. I didn't know that when I assumed this role last January, but I learned it quickly. $5.1 billion. Now, a large part of that is due to our intellectual capital and our exceptional research portfolio. As our state's flagship university, continually enhancing and expanding research is a vital part of our mission. I'm proud, really proud, of how our dedicated and talented faculty have adapted and persevered through the pandemic. Our Baton Rouge faculty secured $94 million in total research grants through November. Well, how's that compare to last year, the year before? It is $20 million more than they had secured at that point in 2019. That is an incredible achievement, and again, done during a pandemic. That's pushing the rock. Now, many of these research efforts are targeted at improving the health and the well-being of our community, and they show a wide variety of expertise. Like what? We got a $9 million grant from the U.S. Army to help make military operations personnel and infrastructure more resilient to the impacts of climate change. Stevens Technology Corporation, our applied research entity, won a $25 million contract for groundbreaking work to protect Louisiana's energy infrastructure. We got a $2.5 million grant from the Louisiana Department of Education to expand and strengthen the state's school-based mental health workforce. Pennington Biomedical Research Center, the one and only Pennington Biomedical Research Center, has been designated as an NIH-funded Center of Biomedical Research Excellence to study the mechanics of diabetes and other metabolic diseases. The LSU Ag Centers, which is in all 64 parishes, new Food Initiative Institute was recently approved, allowing for continued entrepreneurship that also underscores an important part of Louisiana's core culture. Now, our faculty's research draws federal dollars into the state. We bring in 67% of all federal research funding that comes to Louisiana's public universities. And most importantly, it also solves challenges that plague our communities, our cities, our people, and our nation. Now, I'm talking about programs and grants, but what's behind programs and grants are people. We owe a great debt of gratitude to our people, to the many, many heroes who have kept us afloat over the past 10 months, including healthcare professionals, essential workers, scientists, and other researchers. So I want to highlight just some of the LSU heroes. These faculty show that our science and our work does not happen in an ivory tower. We take it to the community where it has direct and immediate impact. Heroes like who? Like Rebecca Christopherson and Stefania Cormier, who established the River Road Testing Lab at the School of Veterinary Medicine last spring to help alleviate the pressures on statewide medical facilities when it came to testing. Along with helping support 18 facilities and processing nearly 5,000 tests, Cormier and Christopherson developed a saliva-based test to track COVID-19 in K-12 children and teachers in Baton Rouge. Now, I mentioned earlier our wastewater testing efforts on campus. Well, we can thank Professors John Pardue and Gus Kasoulas for leading that initiative and helping us implement it on campus. They first partnered with the city of Baton Rouge to develop wastewater testing as part of an early warning system for new cases in our community. They saw that cases increased soon after we went to phase 2 and dropped 14 days after we instituted a mask wearing mandate. The next step was to bring that testing to our campus, allowing us to closely monitor the virus and target testing and other mitigation efforts, and it has been a godsend for us. Another one of our heroes, a rock star, is Medical Physics Program Director, Professor Wayne Newhouser. He started making surgical gowns in his Baton Rouge garage in the early days of the pandemic. He inspired us. We quickly converted the PMAC into a PPE production facility. After establishing the operation over the course of a single week, LSU faculty and staff volunteered to produce more than 20,000 gowns and nearly 10,000 face shields over the next 30 days. More generally, Pennington has conducted invaluable pandemic-related research on barriers to testing in Louisiana's Black communities, which have been disproportionately and tragically affected by COVID. Additionally, the Ag Center continues its important work to support our state's farmers, producers, crawfishers, and students during the pandemic, including studying how farmers have been impacted, launching an online marketplace that directly connects Louisiana's growers and producers to buyers at no cost to the seller, and providing online 4-H programming to thousands of children across Louisiana, as well as virtual recess. The children are grateful and the families are really grateful. Further away, but no less important, are our health science centers in Shreveport and New Orleans, both of which have been instrumental in developing new treatment protocols for COVID-19. Now, sometimes we're pushing this rock up the hill. It's just so big that you can't see what's ahead of you. And when that happens, you got to have faith that what you're doing will work with continued effort. Now, that's particularly true of two social challenges facing our university and universities around the world: diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the problem of sexual assault. Currently, Hush Blackwell, their national expert in Title IX and sexual assault in educational settings, is conducting an investigation of LSU's handling of sexual assault and abuse cases, the ones that we have read about, along with others. And they're also working on a comprehensive review of our Title IX reporting processes and policy implementations. They're on track to deliver a report sometime next month, and we will share their findings publicly. The light of day will help us improve. The warm glow of the sunshine of being transparent will help us improve. Now, if their findings warrant punitive action, we will not hesitate to take punitive action swiftly and appropriately. We're also continuing to develop other initiatives and changes that we can implement in the short term to improve Title IX reporting and enforcement, make reporting assaults as straightforward and sensitive as possible, provide better and more sensitive support to victims, and find ways to prevent sexual assault from happening in the first place. This is being done with input from our community, as well as partners such as Baton Rouge Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response Center. We're building an ongoing relationship with STAR, and we're going to be working with them throughout this year to strengthen our training of faculty, staff, and students, and to enhance our support of victims. It's an extremely serious and critically important issue to everyone in the LSU family. I am deeply troubled by the thought that we failed even a single student who's reached out to us after being a victim of a horrible crime. It is not acceptable. As interim president, it's my responsibility for righting any wrongs that have occurred, and I accept and will fulfill that responsibility. We're going to get this right. We're going to be transparent about how we handle it, and you will be hearing more about it in the coming months. Now, since last summer, I'm incredibly proud to say that we've made great progress on the implementation of our diversity and inclusion roadmap, as well as the important initiatives, including in the LSU Board of Supervisors' commitment to diversity and inclusion, and the platform of improvements that Black student leaders on our campus brought to us last summer. And that work is going to continue to accelerate throughout this year. So strengthening our relationships and enhancing our collaboration with our community partners is something else that we prioritized. We recently convened a community leaders meeting with stakeholders, including representatives from the mayor's office, other elected officials, Metromorphosis, Build Baton Rouge, 100 Black men, 100 Black women, BRAC and BREC, among others, to begin a discussion about reestablishing what has been previously known as the LSU Community Advisory Panel and LSU Community Stakeholders Panel. We're part of this community, and we want to work together to make it even better. Friendships like that, and those with you, Rotarians, are what keeps our university grounded and headed in the right direction, ensuring that we'll fulfill our mission by continuing to contribute to our state's needs. Legislative priorities, of course, we're working on those. We're pushing that rock up the hill. Our priorities are relatively straightforward. We need to be able to take care of our people. They are the linchpin in LSU's continued march toward excellence. They have risen to the occasion time after time, and they have really stood up during COVID. But in order to take care of our people, we need to recover the dollars we lost in the CARES swap from the last legislative session, That was $100 million. That was for all of higher ed. And we need to address our significant backlog in deferred maintenance. On the LSU campus in Baton Rouge, we have $622 million in deferred maintenance. The whole LSU family has about $1 billion in deferred maintenance. Think what's deferred maintenance? It's when when I'm in the bathroom and I look up and I see a little like spot in the ceiling. I think to myself, well, that looks like water. That's a little spot, and I don't take care of it. And if I don't take care of it, what happens? That spot grows. And eventually what happens is my ceiling falls down and hits me on the head. That's what deferred maintenance is. And we've got to be able to take care of that. We have a beautiful, beautiful campus. And we want it to be a beautiful functioning campus forever. We also need to secure additional funding for Pennington and the Ag Center. They've not received anything from the federal government through CARES Act funding because they do not have students. And we also need a state-of-the-art science building. We all know how important STEM education is. We've got to be able to train folks to go into STEM careers. We've got to be able to train folks to teach STEM disciplines in our schools. And we need more labs, and we need a new science building. If we don't get the science building with the growth we have seen in STEM, we're going to have students in a couple of years who will be starting behind because they won't be able to get into labs. As it is, students are in labs sometimes as late as 10 o'clock at night. So we've got to fix that. So you can see and you can hear, we got a lot of hard work ahead of us this year, and we're in it. By any measure, we've been incredibly impactful and successful throughout this pandemic, but there's no question that we are facing challenges, which is why we got to embrace that rock and continue pushing with all our strength each and every day. Now, in the myth of Sisyphus, Camus imagines the moment when Sisyphus loses his grip on the rock and has to watch it roll away from him back down the hill. Camus writes that in this moment, when Sisyphus makes the conscious choice to go after that rock and start pushing it again, quote, he is stronger than his rock, close quote. Well, at LSU, we too are stronger than our rock. So thank you so much for having me here today. It's been a real honor, and I'm ready for questions.
Well, that was great. Thank you very much. We do have several questions. The first one, Marvin Borgmeyer wants to know, how can we further advance the international reputation of the Pennington Biomedical Research Center?
I think that's a great question. We need to stabilize Pennington's funding. Pennington does a fabulous job of research, and they do a fabulous job of getting grants, but we need to stabilize their funding. We need to give them the support that they need to grow. We need to do, and I know John Kerwin, my friend John Kerwin, who's the executive director of Pennington, they've done some real good and hard work on their communication, and they're going to be rolling out some communications campaigns so more people worldwide know about Pennington. But I think Pennington is already known worldwide. Another initiative that I didn't mention, but one of the things that LSU's focused on, and Pennington is a part of this, is getting a National Cancer Institute designation. Louisiana has the 4th highest incidence of cancer in the United States, but we don't have an NCI. And that's one of the things that John and the chancellors of the health science centers and I have been working on and focused on. So that's another way, I think, as we do that, how Pennington's reputation and name will get out even more internationally. Their niche, Pennington's niche on that, will no doubt be how things like obesity, diabetes, and other chronic conditions lead to and affect cancer.
That's awesome. So Jeff Zimmerman would like to know, are there any other exciting grant programs that you would like to share with us that are on the horizon?
The NCI is, I think the NCI is one that we're really, really excited about. Another one we're excited about, this is not Baton Rouge centric, this is statewide, is Louisiana There are enough dentists, but there aren't enough dentists in certain places. There aren't enough dentists in rural areas. There aren't enough dentists providing treatment to patients who maybe have a harder time affording dental care. So our health science centers and the dental school in New Orleans are getting together to roll out projects in rural areas and in underserved areas where dental care will be available, and we're working with our hospital partners on that. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Awesome. Marvin also would like to know, in which ways is LSU involved with the water campus?
We have colleagues who are working at the water campus. If you've ever gone down there and seen that Mississippi River model, and the display is a fabulous resource and tool. So we're there, and I anticipate in the years ahead we'll be there even more prevalently.
Deborah Roth would like to know, what can we do to continue to raise the visibility of LSU's Honors College to attract more top-tier students from across the world?
Yeah, Deborah, thank you very much. Yeah, the Ogden Honors College is a fantastic resource. Students can come and they live and learn at LSU. They're Honors College residence halls. They do a thesis. They have a wonderful experience, and we got to keep marketing that. Jonathan Earl, the dean, is in fireball of energy, and we have set a record this year in the Honors College with 800 honors first-year students. We've never seen numbers like that before, and their GPA, their high school GPA, was over a 4.0. So I think what we got to do is communicate. And Deborah, I would say, well, I've credited Jonathan and my colleagues who teach in the Honors College. I also want to really credit our enrollment management team led by Jose Aviles. Fabulous work in bringing our admissions programs really into the 21st century, and we've achieved incredible success. So I think, Deborah, we've got to keep communicating, keep getting the message out. And get people here, get them come visit, see, participate, and our Honors College is as good as any there is out there.
So another Marvin question would like to know is, if someone tells you they think LSU is more focused on athletics than academics, what do you say?
Well, I guess I say Marvin, and Marvin's got great questions today.
Yes, he does.
I would say that academics is where it's at. That athletics is part of our culture, and it's a part of our culture that we love, and we love LSU athletics, but they're student athletes, so academics comes first, and the recent success we've seen in admissions, everybody sort of said, people say, oh, you got a national championship, right? Okay, that helps, but the numbers were up before. When students come and prospective students come, Jose tells me their questions are not about Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, first and foremost. Their questions are about faculty, programs, and learning. So certainly, as I said, we love athletics. It's a key part of what we do, but it's a part of what we do. We are a school first.
Awesome. I love that answer. Barbara Carey would like to know, how is LSU encouraging entrepreneurship?
We obviously, with their entrepreneurship programs in the Orso College of Business, there are some. We created some programs a few years ago where there are overlap, combined college programs with different colleges. Music and entrepreneurship. We're encouraging our faculty all the time to be entrepreneurial in what they do, and our staff to be entrepreneurial in what they do. I'm going to use a cliche, Barbara, but the cliche is true, is we got to encourage people to break down the silos. One particular way in which LSU is being entrepreneurial is through LSU Online, led by Sasha Thackerberry. Our online programs have really succeeded beyond our wildest dreams so far. It's new. It was relatively new for us, at least at the level in which we've invested and the level at which we've succeeded. And the target of many of our programs are folks who have some college, but they can't come back to be physically on a campus. So they're able to complete their degree online. LSU Shreveport's also got online programs. LSU Alexandria's got online programs. LSU Eunice has got online programs. And they're all going to work together with LSU online. And another target is somebody who may have a college degree, but they want an additional credential or they want a micro credential. And so to work on those things so people can continue to learn through their career and improve their prospects.
Interim President Tom Galligan, thank you so very much for spending some time with us here at Rotary, and I wish you continued success because you've had a great year so far. You're 12 months now into your time here with it, and I hope they take that interim tag off pretty soon because you're pretty good at bringing national championships and bringing great students in. So you got my vote.
Well, I thank you. Whatever happens, like Doris Day said, que sera, sera, but it's been a wonderful adventure so far, and I really appreciate you having me, and hopefully I can see you in person soon.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you, sir. Okay, everyone, that wraps up our meeting for today. Next week, Ron Harris will be speaking to us about the impact of diversity in the 21st century. So again, remember to mask up, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.